Could we just begin, and we'll get to the president's specific comments regarding Israel in a moment, with the Israeli view of this memorandum of understanding as we understand it? I know that there are a lot of details that we aren't firm on to this point. So what does this actually need to look like for Israel to be comfortable with it?
Well, it's good to be back with you too as well. Well, there were five goals set out by the United States and Israel jointly at the beginning of this war. They were to prevent Iran from getting the nuclear weapon, ending its nuclear program, removing the stockpile of highly enriched uranium that's up about close to 2,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium that could be made into about a dozen bombs, probably more. Stopping Iran's intercontinental ballistic missile system that has been pummeling Iran's neighbors and the state of Israel. These are huge missiles. And stopping Iran's support for terrorist groups like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like the Houthis. And generally changing the Iranian regime in such a way that it no longer threatens its neighbors and no longer threatens its own citizens. Those were the goals of the war. Another one was added during the course of the war, and that was reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And the question is to what degree, if any, this memorandum of understanding addresses any of these issues which are absolutely vital for the state of Israel. The president has criticized Israel's actions to defend itself against Hezbollah. What we have to recall is the entire northern part of this country where I'm sitting, the Galilee, which is known to a great number of Americans from their religious services, is completely uninhabited today because they are being shelled daily by Hezbollah rockets and drones, and Israel has to take whatever measures are necessary to defend those citizens, to send that part of the country, even at the cost of standing up to the president of the United States.
So let's talk about what Americans are hearing from their president, ambassador, and I'm sure that you heard yourself. He said, I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon. More specifically, he said you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody because there are a lot of people in those apartment houses and they're not all Hezbollah. I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves with Lebanon and with Hezbollah. Is there some truth to what he's saying, Ambassador, or does this display a fundamental misunderstanding of the threats facing Israel?
It's a long-standing, I would say, difference we've had with the United States. We're dealing with enemies that on purpose hide among the civilian population. They use them as shields. And they're going to keep on shooting at us. And if civilians are hurt or tragically killed, and that is a tragedy, certainly, it is not the responsibility of the state of Israel. I think the president would be well advised to address his comments to Hezbollah and tell Hezbollah to stop shooting at the northern part of this country and rendering it uninhabitable and stop hiding behind its civilian populations. And there'll be no further apartment buildings that'll be collapsed.
Well, as you talk about a misunderstanding here between the United States and Israel, or at least in the way in which the U.S. is understanding this particular circumstance in Lebanon, does it actually not go deeper than that, Ambassador? Do you see the ambitions and incentives here for the U.S. and Israel at this point actually diverging when it comes to Iran? Is Israel going to have to go its own way at some point?
Well, I think it's natural that the interests at some point would diverge. The United States is a very big country. It's situated far from the Middle East. It's not threatened immediately with rocket and missile fire or terrorism from Iran, not immediately. And Israel's a small country. We're in Iran's backyard, and we are threatened not just strategically, we're threatened existentially. If we don't defend the North, we basically lost this country. So a very different set of interests at the end of the day. And yes, those interests might diverge. But Israel will simply say, and I think with due respect to the president, that this agreement is between the United States and Iran, not with Israel. We were not consulted about the agreement. We're not party to the agreement, and we're certainly not signed on this agreement. It does not obligate us in any way. We will continue to take whatever measures are necessary to defend our land and our people, whether it be in Lebanon or elsewhere, in addressing in any continued threat from the Iranian nuclear and ballistic program.
Mm-hmm. What's the feeling when you talk to people on the ground in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem today, Ambassador? Is it one of optimism or one of nervousness about what this deal might lead to?
Very somber mood indeed. There was a shimmering moment some months ago that we thought maybe we were looking at a completely different future for this country and for the entire region. A region that would be free of the Iranian threat, in which Israel and Lebanon could make peace, Israel and Syria can make peace, Israel and Saudi Arabia, maybe even Israel and a post-Ayatollah Iran could make peace, and that there would be a restored American Pax Americana that would extend from the Mediterranean to the banks of the Ganges. That was our hope. And now that hope has very largely dissipated. We do not know what's in this memorandum of understanding, but from what we can tell so far, there seems to be there's no relation to to the ballistic missiles, to the support for terror, to Iran's commitment to destroy this country and kill the 10 million people in it. It's a genocidal policy. And so, yes, we have, together with the United States, greatly degraded Iran's military capabilities. We've degraded its proxies' abilities. We pushed them back from our borders. But we may find ourselves in not too far into the future, facing very similar threats and maybe even more enhanced threats than we have confronted in the past.
So, Ambassador, do you see a risk, as the U.S. is obviously pursuing this diplomatic off-ramp and not continuing offensive operations against Iran, that the U.S. could get drawn back in defensively, having to defend its ally, Israel? Do you really think that that could be the future?
It could be, and it has been in the past, too. During the Biden administration, Iran fired twice at Israel hundreds of missiles and drones. And the Biden administration, together, even with our Arab allies, joined in defending and helping to defend Israel's skies. And this certainly happened last summer during the 12-day war. It happened now during this most recent war. That will happen again because the United States is committed to our defense. But there may, as you said, may be differences of policy about how Israel defends itself. We have very, very little wiggle room. That's all I can say. No Israeli government, doesn't matter if it's the Netanyahu government or any other government, can maintain its legitimacy as long as it does not fulfill its primary duty, which is defending this country and defending its citizens. Yes, even at the risk of some friction with our ultimate ally, but that is our duty. That is our job.
So let's say best case scenario for this week, a deal is signed and the clock starts on a 60-day negotiating period, Ambassador. What happens if there is no deal on nuclear by the end of that 60 days?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a prophet, but I would wager there'd be another 60-day extension. One of the benefits I can see so far, from what we know, is that in contrast to the 2015 JCPOA of the Obama administration, which gave Iran money up front, in the hope that Iran would become, and I'm quoting President Obama here, would become a responsible regional power, which never happened. It appears that the Trump administration is withholding payments to Iran until it conforms to the terms of the treaty. I think that would be a positive development here. But again, it may fall very far short of Israel's basic security needs.
Ambassador, as we mentioned at the beginning, we obviously have heard some sharp words from President Trump regarding Israel in the last 24 hours. I'd like you to just listen to what he said earlier at the G7 summit, and we'll get your response.
Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did. I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon.
Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel. Ambassador, what would Israel realistically to be able to do in terms of its own defense or offensively against Hezbollah if it did not have the backing and weapons from the United States?
Well, again, I'm going to answer you not just as a former ambassador, but as an historian. Israel did not have a strategic alliance with the United States before 1967. We fought the Six-Day War with French arms, not with American arms. And Israel has existed. When I say we have survived, sometimes it's been a close call, but we have survived. Without American armaments, Israel would have to seek armaments elsewhere. But I assure you, the president's going to say that Netanyahu has been irresponsible, but the criticism of Netanyahu in this country is that he has not been sufficiently responsible and that he has not responded with sufficient force against Hezbollah. And that is certainly the criticism of those residents of the north, both of those who are remaining under fire and those who have been displaced. And we're talking about tens of thousands of people who have been displaced. They are very, very critical of the prime minister, to the point that that criticism is now deeply impairing his chances of being reelected in the elections coming up in the fall.